What's up, everybody? So we are diving back into my Playboy Mysteries episode. This is my 4th episode, and I wanted to say briefly before I get into this episode that I would like to think that out of all the mysteries I've done on the Playboy models or Playmates, and if you're new to the channel, just peek at some of my videos I've done, and I usually like to focus on subjects that have not been talked about or not talked about enough, or pretty much been extinct, most of the subjects I've run into. So I wanted to say that Sue Hamilton is by far the most interesting case to myself. I think out of all the Playboy Mysteries episodes I have done, I went through the Playmate database, and of course I get all the death list, and it basically just goes through one by one the date of order of which, unfortunately and sadly, when the Playmates passed away. And Sue Williams, I kind of just glanced at when I looked at the death list. I figured, well, there was status and whereabouts unknown as the cause of death, so I didn't think too much of it. And then I clicked her name, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's just unknown information, maybe the family hasn't put it out there, something like that. But when I say that this is the most interesting and most odd case to me, is because, first of all, there's numerous websites out there talking about the mystery of Sue Hamilton and who she is, and is she two different people, basically, is what a lot of people are basically strongly speculating about Miss April 1965. So we are kind of going back in time here, and I noticed that a lot of the websites do not have a lot of information on her, and the ones that do have information on her seem to be, in my opinion, like most of these videos are, seem to be very much inaccurate, because every now and then you'll get somebody from the past who will come in the comments and chime in, and some of these old websites, they are like, they're forum websites or blog websites, so you gotta just take in mind, before social media and before the world of YouTube and videos and all that fine jazz, you know, older people would just simply Google the person's name and go, oh cool, I'll comment on this, when there really wasn't much social media back then. I mean, there really was no other choice if they wanted to speak out and give their thoughts. And Sue Hamilton was born Karen Sue Levitt. Now, I think a lot of people get confused because she has about 3 or 4 different aliases. She goes by Sue Hamilton, and then goes by Karen Sue Levitt, and then for her Playboy pictorial, I do believe she went by Sue Williams, and then later on got married to a man. I'm just trying to find it here, and so she would have been Sue Mayer. So she's quite a few aliases here, so I'd like to think that maybe, in my opinion, perhaps, or not perhaps, that Playboy at the time of when she was around took advantage of this fact that she had about 4 different aliases, and she has quite a good movie resume. And when I was doing some research on her, I noticed she did a movie called The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. Now, I watched the trailer for that, and that is right up my alley, so I'm definitely going to go take a peek into that. And ironically, she plays a girl named Sue in that one, so maybe that's her nice way of saying my stage name is Sue. So like I said, this is very confusing for me. I don't know what to really make of the whole Sue Williams, Sue Hamilton, Sue Levitt, and a lot of the information that is out there is very much, in my opinion, inaccurate, and I'm going to explain why. When you go into the Playmate database, which is the death list of all the Playmates, they do not say her age of when she died, where she died, and it just says status and whereabouts unknown on this page. And when it says her name, it says Karen Susan Hamilton with a question mark. And it says her birthplace was Glendale, California, which I found out which was not her birthplace. I do believe she was in Brooklyn, in New York, and that's where I was going to say before, is when older people logged on and perhaps went on forums or blogs. I noticed that one of her old classmates chimed in and commented and said, you know, she was from my area in New York, she was born and raised here, and basically confirmed that this Karen Sue Levitt was actually Sue Hamilton, because there's this big mystery online that is Sue Hamilton and Sue Williams are the same people, because even in the database it says was blonde, 4'11", brunette named Karen Susan Hamilton, who committed suicide, who killed herself by gunshot on blah blah blah, has been frequently been mistaken to be her. Now they're trying to say that Sue Williams is not Karen Sue Hamilton, which is born Karen Sue Levitt, and I'm assuming she got married another time afterwards, because it does say in the Playmate website, whichever fan website I was on, did say that she was married twice, so maybe that could perhaps be the reasoning for the last name Hamilton. And when I did some research on her, I did see that her grave site was online, and then it kind of gave some background and information on who her family was. So her mom and dad both had the last name Levitt, so that's pretty much just confirms, and like all the speculation about is Sue Williams and Karen Sue Hamilton the same person, and they're basically trying to say it's not. But for me, from all the research I've done, no matter who you Google, Sue Williams, Karen Susan Hamilton, and if of course you have to add the word Playboy, it doesn't matter what you do, it still comes back to Miss April 1965. So when you got somebody in a comment section saying, hey, I went to high school with her, I recognized her from the Playboy pictorial, and then you get all these information online, it's like, well, what is with the big, what is with the big mystery, I guess, and this is the whole point of my episodes that I do here. When I do research on these subjects, at first, I followed Sue Williams in a couple articles, and I didn't really think much of it until I really dived into quite a few articles, especially that one with the woman saying she went to high school with her, and I have no reason not to believe her or doubt her story that she went to high school with her. She's probably just some old bored biddy online going, oh hey man, I recognize her. And the reason why I think this is a mystery is what is with all the confusion? Why are we, I mean, did someone take advantage of the fact that she had 4 different names and 4 different aliases to just maybe perhaps, in my opinion, throw us off so we just don't ever wonder who the hell Sue Williams is, and we kind of just move on? And, you know, this happened quite some time ago, and I guess the death date she did die, and she died very young at only 23, September 2nd, 1969, which it said she shot herself in the chest, which I believe I mentioned in my last video about some playmate shooting herself in the chest. And I thought it was weird, you shoot for the chest. I mean, most people, like I said, just go for the head, unfortunately, and I just think it's a little bit weird. And there's all these misconceptions of her online, like they're putting out this narrative that Sue Hamilton is not Karen Sue Levitt, and Karen Sue Levitt isn't Sue Hamilton. And from my research, and if I am wrong about this, it both leads to Miss April 1965. So 2 people cannot be one playmate. And pardon me, it's late at night and I've been up late, but however, I did look at one article that suggested, well, okay, here is Karen Sue Levitt, and here's Sue Hamilton, or Sue Hamilton versus Sue Williams kind of article. And they were saying Sue Williams posed for Playboy, Miss April, 1965. And then they're saying Sue Hamilton posed for Playboy, Miss April, 1965. But Sue Hamilton also went on to pose for Playboy in 66 and 67, and I don't know how true that is. But however, this is all speculation. I mean, I could easily go and get the magazines that this article is suggesting, and I'm taking a lot of these articles with a grain of salt, because from my research on Sue Hamilton, it doesn't matter what you Google and research, it always leads back to Miss April 1965. So and the whole death list of the Playmates, they're getting her birthplace wrong, and again, maybe another reason to maybe just throw us off topic, so we're not really going to investigate or really know where she really is from. Because if we don't know where she's from, we don't know her real name, and if we don't know the date she died, which seems to be the date she died just came out a couple years ago, which is more odd considering this happened in the 60s. And they're saying that she was born in Glendale, California, when she was born in Brooklyn, New York. Again, and it's even a question mark on her full name, Karen Susan Hamilton. And it's clearly, it's her, and I looked at the pictures of both topics here, and it looks like she just dyed her hair from blonde to brunette every now and then, and that just seems to be the odd switch if you look at it that way. Like, oh, they are two different looking people, but with the right lighting, I imagine, and a different hair color, it could throw us off, because there has been Playmates in the past who have posed under two different names. And I think that was the subject I did, the two Playmates dying a couple days before Christmas. I think one of them became Playmate a couple times, and then one time again after under a different name. So that does happen every now and then anyways. But no matter what I research on Sue Hamilton, it always leads back to Miss April 1965. She was born November 14th, 1945, and they even get her birth date wrong on the other website, claiming she was born November 14th, 1945. So when you got four different aliases, the location of where you're born is wrong, and she died in Los Angeles, California, which is even more sinister to me, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I also did look up, I do believe, the September issue of Playboy of 1969, and I'm just going to look at it one more time, so I'm not really, well, it's more so of a speculation. But when I did look at the cover of Playboy September 1969, ironically, the month Sue Hamilton died, the cover of Playboy has a bunny on a woman's chest, handwritten bunny on a woman's chest. I don't know, that might be reaching, but it's a little weird considering the time frame. Like, I'm assuming Playboy headquarters at the time was like, oh snap, Sue Hamilton did that. I mean, imagine how her family must have felt knowing that their daughter was a Playmate, and then walking by a Playboy cover of that month with a Playboy bunny having a drawing on her chest of a bunny, and it says she got shot in the chest from taking her life. But I don't believe someone who is so young, vibrant, and beautiful at only 23 years old, I might add, just decides to go, hey, I'm done. And her career seemed to be just starting out from her resume. I mean, it seemed like she was just starting to get into the acting scene, which I noticed a lot of Playmates do, and a lot of models from back then, and her resume was building slowly, and I'd like to think that, she was getting, of course, those good old B movies, but she could have maybe been a Claudia Jennings of sorts. And she's another one that died young. That was a Playboy playmate, and she died in a car accident. And I don't know too much about that one. I haven't done too much research. In the little research I have done, I don't think there's anything sinister with Claudia Jennings, but who knows? I like Claudia Jennings' Sisters of Death movie. That was a really good drive-in 70s horror movie, and I don't know, if you're bored, go look it up. Anyways, on a side note, she looked like she had quite a few good movies here, like How to Stuff a Wild Bikini, The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. It sounded like she was doing a lot of comedies, so right around the time it seemed like she had a lot to live for, if you ask me. I mean, Fireball 500 was the last movie she did, and don't quote me on this, I don't think that movie ever came out, and it came out in 1966, which, she died a couple years later. And I think there was this one old newspaper clipping of her with another playmate in a newspaper, just offering a date with whoever is the lucky contest winner, and I guess that was her last public known appearance. So, and that was a call. That was 3 years, I do believe, before she died. So she'd been 23. She'd been 21, 20. So, and I'm not too even accurate. I'm not even too sure of the accuracy on her birthday, because it says all these. Well, I'm just gonna say it lies. From the time she's born to the time she's dead, all these various websites are both claiming different dates, and basically trying to strongly suggest that Sue Hamilton's, like, I keep going on like a broken record, isn't this Karen Sue Levitt? But I seen the graveyard picture online, and it's definitely Sue Hamilton. I mean, all the facts point back to Karen Sue Levitt, and even a website states her parents have the last name Levitt. So, and what I was thinking was a lot of these articles that are trying to say, nah, you got the wrong person, you're getting them mixed up, is ironically when Hef was alive. And I have this little weird little mind thing I do in my head, and I come up with this very imaginative story, and I go, okay, well, it's 2015 when a lot of this bullshit articles were coming out just on, WordPress websites, blog spots, pretty much where anybody can write a website independently, or even independent websites. But anywho, I think at the time in my head when I go, okay, maybe Mary was up there, sitting there, because she's got to save ass for Hef, that's her job, right? Or maybe it was Mary in the office. Maybe it could have been somebody else working for Playboy, or perhaps if anybody that was involved in their death, if it was sinister, and if it was murder, which I'm not claiming it is, because there is absolutely no verification or proof online, just complete speculation when I say that. But maybe someone back then was like, oh snap, we gotta throw people off, because they're gonna maybe wonder, and since she has 4 different aliases, maybe we can really throw them off, because it really doesn't matter what you do, it always leads back to Miss April. So I guess these are one of the cases that, until you can prove me otherwise, then let me know, because it is very confusing. But I did see a couple articles basically saying, like, this is Miss April, and again, you can't have 2 people being one playmate. And what if there is anything sinister? Why did this go on for as long as it did? Like, why were they putting out this narrative, like, no, that's not that person? Because like I was saying, I could just see Mary or somebody sitting up there writing this blog just to kind of throw people off, because the blog I read was in 2015, which, Hef, as we know, Hef was alive at the time, and I'm not, pointing fingers at Hef or saying, Hef did this by any means. And again, of course, this is all speculation, and I'm not trying to defame anyone in any sort of way. And this is just for an entertainment-wise purpose, if you will, or maybe educational. And then, again, it's speculation. And I'm not saying, have had anything to do with this, but for me, it raises a question mark. Sue Hamilton's relationship with him, I can say that much. Her relationship with him is more of a mystery than anything, because that's just how I look at it. I don't know, it's very tragic when you look at it. I mean, 23 years old, and there's not a lot of information or articles that came out at the time of this whole ordeal, and you figure, like the Paige Young one, there was not hardly any news media coverage either on that, and this one was no media coverage as I looked, and any newspapers or media coverage was from when she was a playmate and doing movies as an actress. And again, like I said, I think she did switch her hair colors from black to blonde, perhaps maybe for movie roles or just to switch it up in modeling, but all leads back to Sue Hamilton, or I should say Sue Williams, or Karen Sue Levitt, or Karen Sue Mayers, or Karen Sue Hamilton. So I think a lot of people did take advantage of the fact that she had quite a few names. She was divorced from Kenneth Doran Mayer, by the way, which I did some research on him, and nothing leads to him. No newspaper clippings, and I don't know if it was just maybe somebody she met in her neighborhood or somebody she met when she was doing her modeling, but it does not say much. But it does say they did divorce and they were only married for about 3 years, it looks like, and they had 2 children. So I don't know how true any of this is, because when I Google Kenneth Dorian Mayer, nothing comes up from the 60s, not even an obituary, which you figured by now there would be, some sort of obituary stating, like, Kenneth Dorian Mayer passed away and had 2 children, blah, 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 and, no, nothing on him either. And the 2 children, if there is 2 children, you figure one of them would have chimed in online and been like, alright, we're her children, we can definitely put this mystery to rest if you really want to know. But maybe the only truth to the spouse is that maybe she was just married to him and she didn't have any children. Who's to say she was even married to Kenneth? It's very hard to say. This one is probably the biggest mystery to me out of all mysteries I've ever done. This is probably the most weirdest one because it all leads back to Sue Hamilton, Sue Williams, and it does say she did pose for Playboy quite a few more times, Sue Hamilton. So, and they're trying to say, no, that was Sue Williams that did that. And I was like, well, Sue Williams is Sue Hamilton. So, who really knows? Sometimes these things are maybe a mystery or not a mystery. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm sure if you take the time to research her, I think you will be like myself at first when you're researching, and you're just gonna go, holy moly, what am I doing? None of this is leading to anywhere. And maybe that was the whole point, was to throw us off for quite a few years and not ever any of us question who the hell Sue Hamilton was, and we just kind of move about our day. Because if you get like I am frustrated, you're trying to like Google 4 names and not a lot's coming up, and so I'd like to think this is the end of the episode, and before I end the episode, everything is just a speculation and opinion. But again, this one is very, very odd to me. Out of all the quote-unquote cases, if you will, that I do on my page here on YouTube, in my opinion, I think Sue Hamilton is the most sinister, most weirdest, most oddest one, because why are we putting out this false narrative that she's not who she says she is? And IMDb seems to confirm this, that she is this person, and the high school friend also seemed to confirm this in a comment, and even they're wondering, like, hey, like, why are you guys so confused? It's simple to me. So, another mystery, if you will, and why I do these mysteries is because it seems like no one ever sheds any light on any of these women that are ever talked about these topics on my page. It seems to be like, when you go and Google them or put their name in on YouTube, it's like nothing really comes up, and if there is, it's nothing really talking about these kind of details and this kind of context of conversation, because I don't know, I'd like to think Sue Hamilton is a mystery. Sue Williams, aka Karen Sue Levitt, and I don't know, she died in Los Angeles, which is even more sinister to me. I mean, what's with all the lying? What's with saying she's not who she says she is? Why are we lying about her birth date, her death date? I mean, does that not seem kind of sinister in your guys' opinion? I've also looked up some of her other movies and watched some of her other trailers, and some of her movies look like a riot. I guess you'd have to go to her movie page, IMDb, and type in Sue Hamilton and give a quick peek at her resume, and maybe try to find some of the movies. I found a couple so far that I'm going to most likely watch. The Ghost in the Bikini, I mean, that just sounds absurd and ridiculous, and I'm all about cheesy B-rate movies, let me tell you. So before I say goodbye, and I better do it soon because I do become a babbling basket case, I'm like, oh, let me say goodbye again, and then I'm like, oh shit, let me say goodbye. But anyways, thank you all for tuning into my videos. I think I have 3 more of these mystery type videos on Playboy models, cover models, playmates, and maybe even cyber girls. And I think the season 2 of these mysteries are pretty much coming to a halt, and they're being wrapped up here soon, and we're going to be going to, I think I'm going to be saying we, like I'm some big production, it's just me and my laptop and some of my Z-list editing tools, but we will be coming back, at my page, and I'll be doing more Sunday Funday book reviews, which will always include a Playmate book of some sort, and maybe even a mystery or murder type book I read, or some kind of comedy books I read, which I will always give the recommendations and websites in the descriptions for my Sunday Funday reviews. So if you ever feel the urge and want to perhaps read some good stuff, then I always leave the recommendations in the descriptions, like I do with this one from my website, justafrenzy.com. On a side note, justafrenzy.com is having some maintenance issues, but once those are done, the website will be back up, secured, and ready to go for everybody to look at. So please just bear with me. It's just taking some time. And I also wanted to mention one more thing before I go. And this episode's getting a little bit long here because the Sue Hamilton case really bugged me. One last thing before I go, everybody. I wanted to say thank you for tuning in, but drum roll. I can't edit that in, but anyways, go look up Killcast, the movie trailer. I'm in it. I have a role in that movie. I have a small clip in there, and I say a couple things in the movie Killcast. It's by SRS Cinema. Or just Google Killcast SRS if that makes it easier for you. So anyways, thank you for tuning in, and I wanted to say sorry. I usually do these episodes on Saturdays, but this week I've been all up and down with my time, so I will be finishing this from now on Saturdays from here on out. So if I'm uploading this on a different day, do not worry, I will be uploading the others from here on out on Saturdays. So go check out justafrenzy.com and Killcast SRS. So thanks for tuning in to my blabberfest, and let me know what you think of Sue Hamilton, and if you think this is weird like I do, like all the lies and false narratives. Anyways, I personally think, like I said, I could see Mary and a bunch of people sitting up there going, no, we gotta write this bullshit, throw people off. Just my speculation, allegedly, my opinion. Anyways, please subscribe. If you'd like to comment, please do so. Give me your thoughts, give it a like. I sound like a commercial right now, but no, it really does mean a lot if you subscribe. Anyways, tune in next Saturday for the next one.